be chilling tonight. I need to feel tonight, man. Hey, man, where my radio, man? Yeah, let's go. I need you to turn that up. Jamming tonight. Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
Pull the way up like we in a club. Fly flashy, grown classy, so turn it up. Saturday mornings, no walk of shame, we fresh up. 950 lounge, that's my guilty pleasure. I don't miss my favorite show, I put everything on hold. Work the baby, even the babysitter know. When 950 come on, don't bother. I'm locked in 10 to 1, no problem. Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
This young lady to my left, to me, needs no introduction, and to a lot of y'all really shouldn't either. She's an artist that's been around for many years. She sung lead for the legendary group Chic with Nile Rodgers, yes. And she's now rocking on the 950 Lounge Show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the superstar herself, Miss Alfa Anderson. What's going on?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Good to be here with you today. Thanks for the invitation.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you for coming. I know, recording artists like yourself, this is a little early. This is, rolling over rim style, but I appreciate it, and I'm sure our listeners do as well. Again, I kind of want to start, I guess I got to start with Augusta, Georgia.
Yay.
That's where it all started.
That's right. Southern girl, born and bred,
Sunday afternoon dinners?
Sunday afternoon dinners, after church, though.
After church.
Well, this is our pork pit right here. You could have brought us some chicken, some rice.
And I can fry it, too.
All right.
But we don't have all-day church. I started all-day church at like 7 o'clock. From 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock at night.
I remember those times when they used to always try to get me to go back. After our dinner, they used to always try me to get back to go to the BTU, which started at 6 o'clock, and I would have been there till 7 o'clock, and I didn't make that very often. 11 o'clock service was enough.
Then let's see. Gotta leave. Like a lot of artists, I'm assuming you started in the church.
I actually did start singing in church. I know it sounds like a cliche,
right.
But that's where I started singing. But I was always singing. We were always singing in my house, except my mother says that my father couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. But that didn't stop us from trying, and that didn't stop us from singing. And there was a piano in the house. I was in the band, When I went to college, I was in the college choir. When I came to New York and to get my master's at Teachers College, Columbia University, I was in the choir there. So it's just always, music has always been a part of me. Music is it's divine.
It's like Tyrese on back of the bus, just singing.
Always singing.
Alfa, I can let you know now.
No, please.
We call it Black Tourette's.
And I
already told about the riddling.
See, I know.
Okay,
I know.
Okay.
I used
chokeholds,
wait a minute.
punches to the nose, help stop.
But he's cool because one of the things that I did, I'm also an educator, and I started in special ed. So I really
Got him.
So
I like this girl.
What was in that cup where you drinking over there, man?
So I'm cool.
Saluting me too. Salute.
I'm cool with it.
That's not good either. That's the homemade stuff.
So from I'm trying to conduct a real interview. From Augusta, Georgia.
Love you, baby.
I love you. You get the wall, bless you.
Augusta, Georgia, church on Sunday, choir Sunday afternoon, church all day to the mean streets of New York, Columbia University. Not that they're mean streets, but coming from Augusta to New York, predominantly white school, Ivy League.
Yeah.
How was that transition?
Oh, it was a real eye-opening transition for me. I grew up in the segregated South.
Right.
Now, a lot of people think that was a horrible thing for me, but I've had this conversation with many people. It was wonderful because I got to see every layer of society reflected in my own community. Right. Because we couldn't go certain places. The doctors would not take care of us. We had to become doctors. We had to become dentists. We had everything. You know, when my husband saw my high school yearbook, he says, wait a minute, because he's a New Yorker. He says, wait a minute, your principal is black? I said, yeah. Your guidance counselor? Yeah. So that wasn't difficult. Knowing who I was, I had so much love. By the way, the principal of my junior high school was the chairman of the deacon board, so that also meant that I couldn't do anything at school that my mother didn't know about on Sunday. You know, so it was a closed community. So when I got here, I was anxious to be here because I really wanted to know that I could hold my own anywhere in the world with anybody.
This is the place to do.
Yeah, this is a place. This is a place.
Without question.
You know, that's so interesting because you would normally hear how people wouldn't want to be in an environment that's so segregated. But in actuality, I think what it does, it makes your community more of a home base.
Community was,
and you get to keep the culture, you get to understand the culture.
Yes.
And you get to build within that community. And that's why you start to see now why the breakdown within the African American community is so different from the Jews and the Irish, because they built that community and kept it. Where you had some communities we were together, then you have we over here we're separate still, and over the years we've continued that process where we haven't been able to just fully connect as a group of people. So that's so interesting because I've never heard anyone that grew up in that time period and everything that you've grown up that said that they appreciate it.
I really did, and our money circulated in our community so many times. Until it went out of the community. So we were strong in that way. We loved each other. We supported each other. We took care of each other because there was no such thing as not.
You know you had an issue.
Right.
Because everything was good.
Right. Look, I didn't know I was poor.
Right. Exactly.
Because I was rich.
Yeah. Rich in love.
I was rich in so many other things. So.
Well, you said other things. I was going to say, give me $20. Yeah, that's really.
You said you're the educator and special ed is your forte. He's still learning.
I need my medication, buddy.
It's medication time.
It's happy time. We put some of that orange juice outside.
Whatever you
That's like a woman coming to the room is medication. So I'm like, oh yeah.
So we talking to every outfit.
I'm sorry, let's get back.
Oh my goodness, I deal with this every week. I'm so glad you
I love how she said it's medication time. Leave the room, Oliver. Leave the room.
So from that teacher's college, then you go work with the Cannonball at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
So you're performing on Carnegie Hall stage.
Yeah.
And then obviously through this process, the break happened.
It did. I was like singing background, and one day I was working in the studio with Lou Courtney, and a friend of mine, Edna Holt, says, you know, there's some friends that I want you to meet. They're rehearsing in the other studio. It's this guy named Luther that you've got to hear sing. And Fonzie Thornton and Michelle Cobb. So when we got a break, we went over there, and they introduced me to everybody. Fonzie, after I met him, he took me over to Luther, who was sitting in the corner. I will never forget this, and I sort of memorialized some of this in my song, When Luther Sings. Luther was sitting in the corner. You know, he's big Luther.
Oh, okay. We was going to ask you.
I wanted to know.
This is
He
the
was
70s. This is
this is
I
big.
don't know that. I don't.
He was baby. That's all right. Baby.
That's
So
like Georgia coming.
it is. So he was sitting there, and he had an overalls, and he had his head down. And so Fonzie said, Luther, I want you to meet Alpha. And he slowly raised his head. He shook my hand, and he put his head right back down. He was so shy. And then I'm like, oh, wow, that went well. This brother doesn't like me at all.
Maybe he was in his zone. Sometimes he was in his zone.
Well, that's true. Yeah. That's true. And he was, because when he got up to sing, I was totally smitten.
Wow.
Sorry, baby. My husband's sitting over there. I fell in love with his voice because it's like, I had never heard anything like that before.
Right. Yep.
And I got a call. Somebody called me a week later and said, Luther really would like to talk to you. He likes you. So can you have his phone number? Can he have your phone number? And we started chatting. I would go over to his house and we would cook, eat, sing, and I began to meet a lot of people. And one day he gave me that phone call and said, Alpha, I have this session coming up and I'd like for you to come. And it's for this new group. Well, actually, he says it's a friend of mine named Nile Rodgers. He's with a guy named Bernard Edwards, and they have this group called Chic, and it's disco. And I was saying, well, you know, Luther, we've never done disco before. We're R&B artists. And so he says, oh, come on, it's going to be fun. So we went to the studio, and there was David Lasley on this session, Diva Gray, I think Robin Clark, Luther, and myself. But before they came in, I was sitting down marking papers because I was teaching at Hunter College. I was a full-time lecturer at Hunter College. So I was marking papers. Luther walks in and says, all right, where's the menu? I want a chicken. Order me some food. But when I got behind the microphone, or actually in the studio, and I heard Dance, 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 the second time I was smitten, just in love with the music, with the
that
rhythm.
Song. I remember going to Uncle Ronnie's house, and we had an uncle that was always playing kind of on the music, and he would play that song. And actually preparing for this interview, it played in my head like, wow. That's one of the beauties with this show. Like, we get to bring people in, and it's funny you mentioned about Luther in the studio. We had D. Train Williams up here a few months back, and he talked about his love for Luther as well. Talked about Luther with the food and the pork rinds, that he had to have a big bag of pork rinds at all times to eat. You're laughing, maybe he had pork rinds with you, but he always talked about that. And again, for somebody to have those thoughts, like, wow, I remember pork rinds. He said it still reminds him of Luther to this day.
Yeah, we ate a lot. I remember one time we were doing a gig in Long Island. We went out, we snuck away after sound check. We came into the city, and we ate so much, and we got back. My husband's laughing because he was a bass player on the gig, and he remembers.
I didn't get no chicken.
He remembers.
I ain't even getting nothing back.
Every time Luther and I looked at each other, we just go, because we were so full, we could hardly move on the stage that night. But those were great times. But I learned so much from him, and that day, what I learned is the power of intention.
Wow,
intention is really important. Follow your passion. You have a dream, but then you do the work to make that dream come true.
Right.
And when I stood behind that microphone, I said to myself, you know what? I really love this music. I'm going to put my heart into this. And because I did, it worked for me. It worked for me. So at that moment, I said yes to life and decided that, it's really okay to be an artist.
Yeah.
And it's okay to live your dream and to follow your dream.
You started in 77 with Chic.
Yes.
And then 78, the break came to be the lead.
Yeah. I was scared. I was nervous because I had never been a lead singer before. I was not groomed for show business. Right. I was groomed to be an academic. Music is something that it's a passion, it's just something that I did, but I was groomed in academia. And I just knew I was going to be this college professor and have a PhD, and I still have a love for young people. This is why I love you guys so much. I came up and told you, I love you.
Thank you so
I
much.
really do. The spirit of what you have.
We love you too.
Well, thank you. The spirit of
He
what
might
you
really
have
hit
is
you up for that
powerful.
20 now. As soon as you start to love things. I got 20 now.
She first came on, she was like, you're my kids. I was like, well, where you been at, mommy? You missed 40 plus, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And she did what a black person would say, well, I've been away, baby. I was away. But mama still love you.
Yeah, mama love you, baby.
When you go back, again, people who go to Columbia University don't normally just break into music. So you go from Georgia to Columbia, educated, working at Hunter. How is the family back in Georgia saying, wait a minute, I get that you with Luther, and I get that you're singing, but you went to school. People sacrifice, especially, and again, even to this day, people sacrifice to get their kids to college. We get you one of the best colleges in America, and you go on a tour.
They didn't believe me.
Right.
When I told my mother, I said, I'm with this group called Chic, and we have a #1 song. She says, no, you don't.
She wasn't listening to the radio?
I said, yes, I do.
Did they have it down there though?
Well, they did. We were not in Siberia. We did. But that valid question, very valid question. You know.
You don't know about internet. Then
No, that's all right. But let me tell you, the interesting thing is that I kept saying, yes, and she said, no. And she says, you know why I know you don't have a #1 song? And I said, why, Mama? Because it's not in Jet. And you all may be too young to remember Jet magazine.
Jet magazine.
I remember Jet. No, I remember Jet
I remember
magazine.
the beauty. I remember the beauty.
Jet was in every black person's bag.
I remember exactly what page that goes
That's
to.
right. That's right.
As soon as that Jet would come, I go to that one page.
Look
and
at the
like,
beauty of the week.
In the back, it had the top 20 songs.
That's right.
And it,
That's right.
It wasn't in the Jet.
That's right.
Jet was on everybody's bathroom kimono. Any black person's bathroom kimono had a Jet magazine.
Well, because remember, it was
That's
always
right.
two. It was Jet and it was Ebony.
And Ebony.
Ebony.
Yeah.
So when she saw it there,
Yeah.
but
Right.
by the time Jet had it, it was old news.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
was a month later, yeah.
that's when she knew that it was okay, that I was going to be okay.
Exactly. No
And now
doubt.
you're a Hall of Famer, you know, in the Hall
Hey.
of Fame.
What it's
Nothing
all
wrong with
about. We're
that.
talking again to legendary Alfa Anderson. So let's talk about at Chic when I mean 78. You guys hit
Out.
Yeah, and the freak.
Yes,
yeah.
please. I want to know about how did that come
Yeah.
about. That's one of my favorite songs.
Well, you're a freak.
You haven't heard the story?
Yes, I want to hear the whole story from beginning to end. The first day you went into the studio to when it came
We
out
gotta
and you
have the
guys
time,
all
Judge,
knew it.
but nevertheless,
The short abridged
Alpha,
version,
hit-
obviously.
Hit him break it down.
Hit him
for
with I want your love.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want.
Yeah, love. Well,
And you hear the mouth. Do 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 do. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. It's
He
the
probably
regular.
Blue Band fan
It's
there.
okay. I love that. I love the spontaneity. You know, real artist. You know. But what do you want to know about it? How I felt when I first heard
when you
it.
first started singing it. Who wrote it? When you read it, and when you're singing it, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, is this gonna be the one?"
Right.
And then so forth and so on.
Well, Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards wrote all of the songs, and they wrote this song after an unfortunate event at Studio 54.
Yes.
You know, and I don't know whether or not I have time to go through the
No, you got
story.
time. We got time
Okay,
when you're done.
but they went to Studio 54. Grace Jones had invited them. Studio 54 was this huge place, and
Oh,
they had
yeah.
the velvet rope, and you couldn't get in unless you knew somebody.
Yeah.
And they got there, and they said they gave their names, and the doorman wouldn't let them in. So they said, but Grace Jones invited us. If you could just call her and let her know, you know. And they said no. So they went back to one of their apartments, and they just started jamming. And they said, and I'm not going to say it, Niall tells the story, and the original lyrics to Freak Out was, F you.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Right. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really.
At that time,
At that time.
that would have been a very,
But
very.
it was not recorded that way.
Okay.
That was just that was just what they wrote, and they said, well, this jam sounds pretty
they
good.
felt.
So what can we do? And they changed it to Freak Out, which was which is a phrase that has really become a part of the lexicon,
Right.
the culture here. And when we first heard the song, we loved it because they had a very different way of recording. Most times when you record, you would get demos, so you would know the name of the song, you know something about the song. They didn't record that way. They just says, okay, be at the studio tomorrow at such and such a time. Ooh.
Probably
Big-
now.
It's
Now.
on vibrate. It's on vibrate.
The one Bobby, we wouldn't hear it.
She's gonna bring on a tone right now on you now.
They just say, be at the studio such and such a time, and we'd get there, and they'd give us this paper with lyrics, and they'd play the song, and they'd say, this is how it goes. So we had to figure it out and capture what I call the DNA of the song,
Right.
and go out there and perform it.
Right.
And Diva Gray and I, who was another studio musician, sang the lead on it was a duet. We sang that song, and I loved it. And I can remember, my southern accent was pretty thick at that time, and I was I could turn a one syllable word into a 2-syllable word in a minute.
Yeah.
You know, with my sort of drawl. And somebody was complaining about it, and I remember Niall and Bernard said, we wouldn't change a thing. We love the way she's singing this song.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
I tell you. So when life, #1 hit, life's got to change a little bit. Like something's got to resonate. Say, wow, you know, people start to, you know, maybe get free meals in restaurants, and you get more family relatives calling you for money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how did life change after Freak Out?
It did change for us. We were we were in it gives you a sense of entitlement, but it's a false sense of entitlement, and I have to say that.
Okay.
Because I can remember feeling and being in situations where I felt like, this is okay, but it's not really cool. It's not really cool because we're all here on this earth. We're all united. We're all one.
Right.
And why should one get a whole lot more than the other? I used to ponder these types of things. I guess it was because of my Southern Baptist upbringing. I used to always think about those types of things. Not that we were doing anything totally outrageous, but I would think about those types of things. And I remember a young lady came backstage in my hometown. As a matter of fact, we're Facebook friends now. When she was just a tiny thing, and she came backstage and she says, "Oh, I love you so much. You're my hero." And at that moment, I could see myself reflected in her eyes. And I looked at her, and it looked as if I could see deep into my soul. And I said, "Precious, I really appreciate that you like my music, and I love you for that. But your heroes are the people that stay and work with you every single day.
Yes.
I'm here today, and after this, I'm going on to someplace else. I'm so glad that I could bring you this moment of joy. But look to your teachers, your parents, the people in her community who can give you some roots. Then you have the wings to soar."
Yes.
You know what? It's when you just say you didn't look at yourself as a celebrity.
Not at all.
You looked at yourself as a normal person. When some people come up, when people come to celebrity today, oh my God, like Beyonce, they die to get to them. But you was just an ordinary person. You would give the same philosophy that you would give to a person that you knew for years to a person that you didn't know.
Yeah.
And I know when you talk to them, they probably just you like, wow. She is a down-to-earth person. Because some of these people are celebrities, and they get like, "Oh, don't touch me,"
Well,
everything like that.
That wasn't me. And every now and then I hear from them, and they thank me for that night.
Right.
They said, "You were so kind."
Yeah.
You may help
kind.
change somebody's life, and you don't even know it.
The reality
Touch
is
people.
that what you were doing, and I'm sure you knew it because you're so grounded, is that what you do is you're inspiring people to do great things, where they want to be the next Alfa Anderson singer, the next Alfa Anderson educator, the next Alfa Anderson just good mother.
Right.
When people are inspired and people feel like, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. The beauty of coming from, again, segregated South to playing on stages all around the world says that anybody, as long as you try to put your mind to it, can make it. We're still talking to the legendary Alfa Anderson, formerly of Chic fame, but we enjoy those stories, and we're gonna get back to a few in a moment. But I really want to dive into what you're doing now, because a lot of people we bring bought the D trains and the Milk D's. People go, "Oh yeah, that's great. I love the music," but they ain't done yet. They ain't done yet. You got some stuff you're doing now. Let's talk about what you're doing now. You got a song you just put together with obviously somebody who's very close to you, Luther Vandross.
Yes.
Bless his heart. Rest in peace. And you put this song together. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I was getting ready to do my first solo CD. I had not done a solo CD, believe it or not, in all of this time.
Wow.
And my family kept saying, "You need to do something." And I kept feeling like there was something inside of me, that I wanted to express who I was.
Right.
And I would wake up in the morning and in the 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I would just start writing.
Right.
And I was saying, you know what, I've got to put a Luther song on my CD, because one of the things that he used to do is he always would put a song on his CD of somebody that he really loved.
Yeah.
And I was going through all of his songs, and I said, well, what should I do? And then finally it occurred to me, why do a Luther song? Why not write a tribute song to the man himself?
Right.
And that's where it came about. And it's really autobiographical, the song about how I felt when I actually met him. And the Perfectly Chic song is also a tribute song.
Yeah.
When I come back again, I can talk about some of the other things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I think it's really, really important for us to know that we are not in this world alone.
Yes.
And you have to give thanks to people that have supported you and helped you along the way.
Right.
We
just heard that Luther song before we came back to talking, and again, like I said, it's the names that you're rattling on. People say, "Well, I know those people," but we all have that person we love, whether they're famous or just famous to us. And I think that's again what you're sharing is not just about music; it's about life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Music is reflective of life. Like when I used to tell my students that I was a high school English teacher as well before I became a high school principal.
Right.
But I would tell my students, I said, you know something? You can study history to find out, you can read certain types of books, or you can look at the artists of any era, because the artists, the dancers, the poets, the writers, the thinkers, those people give you the spirit of what it's all about.
Now, you just mentioned the era, the time. Music represents the time, the artists that are in the time. You work with kids. You're still in the educational system. With some of the music today, okay, some of the artists, some of the language, some of the 808s, what have you, what do you think about that, some of the music and artists today that are kind of leading the charge compared to what it was when you were at your height? Some of the sound people claim about is noise, but then again, I remember my mother telling me, you know, when I used to listen to Run DMC and a couple, you know, and those artists, that was noise. Do you think
Right.
it's just a progression of music where, okay, people just say, you know what, they don't get it because I'm not in that era, or is it really something where the music today is it's just not right? Your thoughts?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's not right. I'd say that music is reflective of the times, and people write and sing about what they know.
Right.
And so one of the things that I think that we can learn from each other. I like to learn from young people, and I would like to think that at this point in my life, I have something to share.
Right.
And when you put it together, you're strong.
Yeah.
You guys lead the way for me in so many ways. It's because of you that I'm beginning to understand technology.
Yeah.
You know, you guys are really good with that.
Right.
I wasn't good with that. It's because of you I understand that you really have to see yourself as a brand. You are a commodity.
Yes.
And you got to sell that brand because we live in a capitalistic society.
Speak on it, Alpha.
It's because of you that I've learned these things. It's because of you that I've learned to be fearless.
Yeah. Right.
To be fearless. You know, and people always say, well, I don't know what's wrong with these children right now. I say, well, they're yours.
Right.
They don't want to claim them.
They're yours.
Only time they want to
like
claim us
that
was on the
one.
taxes.
I like
That's why
that.
they don't want to claim us was on taxes. Otherwise, we
I
don't
like
understand
that
them.
comment. They yours.
You know, they're yours. Where'd they come from?
Yeah. No doubt.
You know, so that's all I'll say about that.
Alpha, say it with your
Drop
chest.
the mic. Just drop the mic on that one.
Question:
I'm gonna
Who
drop
are
the
you
mic.
listening to right now? What young artists are you listening to right now?
Lil
Just out of-
Yachty.
I don't even know who that is. So don't,
You said it.
so don't embarrass me up in here. But you know, I do like people who have a throwback vibe.
Okay.
You know, so I like Bruno Mars.
Okay.
You know,
Yes,
Mary J. I mean, this girl can always come out and sing for me. But
You
I,
know, she behind
you
tax
know,
problems.
Maiselique,
Yeah.
Liz Wright. You know, there are people I like, Avery Sunshine. There are lots of people that I really
Okay.
like that I listen to. I like Chance the Rapper. You know,
okay.
I try to listen to a lot of different types of music because you want to stay informed. I feel like if you're not learning and you're not engaging in this world,
You're not
then why
growing.
be here?
Yeah.
Why just take up space?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to stay connected, no matter what era or journey you in. You have to stay
Yes.
connected, especially being an artist. But was there any point in time in your career where you had a little self doubt?
Oh yeah.
Because I find that sometimes people can get scared of success when they
Absolutely.
see things have turned. So what point maybe have you said, you almost doubted yourself? Maybe this wasn't the right thing for you.
I've doubted myself so many times, and I was reflecting this morning that I had to learn how to love me and how to embrace me. When I was singing back in the day, there were so many wonderful singers around me who had these wonderful voices.
Yeah.
And I've always had a soft voice, a soft speaking voice. Well, my husband will tell you that I can raise it up a few decibels, but basically,
Drake saying, listen, I ain't getting
sat there in the
involved.
corner.
Don't interview.
But like most divas do.
you know, but because my voice was different. My voice was softer, it was
Yeah.
lighter and more melodic.
Yeah.
And I realized, and I used to call it a weakness until I understood that it's not a weakness, it's a uniqueness. And your uniqueness then is your strength.
That's right.
Yes.
That's
right.
the thing
You
that
giving us a
sets you
sermon today,
apart.
Alvin. We sermoning.
That's the thing that makes you who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that draws people to you. So when I stopped being afraid of being who I was, I began to get more confidence. But yeah, I think that people are often afraid, but you know what I learned? Be afraid and do it anyway.
It's a natural emotion.
Do it anyway.
It's funny, a former football coach of mine used to always use the analogy of the man of 6-second airborne, that they were afraid, but they went anyway. So when they were going to bomb in World War II, they were afraid of dying, but they still went. So if you're going to continue, if you're going to push for something, that's a natural emotion. If your fears get the best of you, then you'll never achieve greatness.
never
Because a failure to me is a one step closer to a success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because success doesn't come until after you've tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
And failure is just a lesson.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah, because they always say you're supposed to be afraid, but you're supposed to be able to, when you get on stage, you're supposed to conquer your fears, and you turn the fears around, the energy, the
That's
negative
right.
into a positive.
That's
Yeah,
right, and
listen.
use that.
Right,
I heard Pete Seeger say, who's a folk singer, said that when you're afraid or nervous on stage, it only means that you still have respect for your audience.
Exactly.
And I don't ever want to lose that respect for people and for my audience. I was scared to death when I was doing this CD, Music from My Heart.
Yes.
And I decided to name it what it really was, Music from My Heart. And I'm saying, look at me, you roused a long time ago. And people were saying, you're too old, you're too this, you're too that. And I said, you know what? Stop listening to people with limiting thoughts
Yeah.
and limiting behaviors, and just be who you are. So I'm very proud of my record, Music from My Heart. And a couple of days, I got the biggest surprise. I've been nominated Female Vocals of the Year
Wow.
by Soul Tracks.
Nice.
And
Congrats on that.
yeah, I'm like, so when you follow your passion, it doesn't matter, because certain things are social constructs.
Yes.
They're not real. They're not real, and it's all energy. So just be positive with your energy.
You know what?
And strategic with your mouth.
Another drink, baby. Another drink.
So I do want to. Can I take a moment to tell people how they can vote for me?
Yes.
So
Alpha, nobody getting rid of you, baby.
so
This
I
house is not
wrote.
a house without that chair.
Oh, well, great. Well, I wrote it down so that I
Yes.
wouldn't make any
Okay.
mistakes. But it's the Soul Tracks 2017 People's Choice Awards, but you have to be on their mailing list in order to vote. So you can go to soultracks.com, check sign up, and follow the prompts, and you'll be able to vote. They will send you an email ballot on November 3rd, and you'll vote. And I'm in good company, because some of the people that I talked about, people I really like, we're in the same category. So I'm in the category with people like Liz Wright and Maisie Leaks and CeCe Winans, Macy Gray, and Avery Sunshine,
Yes.
and me.
Alpha. We're going to put that on our website. We'll get that the backstage a little later, and we'll make sure that we had that link on our site as well. So that
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
if somebody's a little bit rodeo-ish.
Because Cece got the Christian world. Oh, that's gonna be hard.
Don't start with her.
I do have this question though.
Yes.
So many people like myself have looked up to you and followed your music, but who was your number one? Who was that one that kind of inspired you? Because I find out people that do music, love music, is passion. That's something that's instilled in us from little. But it's always
Yes.
that one person that's just like, yes, and tells you to go forward. Who was it for you?
For me, and I had a chance to tell her this, was Dionne Warwick. And the reason I loved her is that she sang melody. And I've always loved melody. I mean, I knew that I was not going to ever be an Aretha Franklin. That's just not my lane. But I loved her, and I had a chance to tell her how much she inspired me. And she says, really? And I said, yeah. But it's like, you never know. So I played that stuff so much until my neighbors probably hated my guts.
Turn that music on.
I know. But she actually was very inspirational for me, as was pretty much the whole Motown roster.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Beautiful.
Okay.
I mean, that's
That's a roster and a half.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we
That's
definitely gonna
legends.
do our part, and we're gonna vote, and we're gonna tell Dion to say a little prayer for you.
Oh, I love
And
that.
Miss
We
Cleo.
vote.
Calling me now.
Hello, darling. Mama Montego for the New York audience. Before we got a few minutes left, I need one. I know your husband's here.
Yes.
I need
He's
one.
okay.
I need one good chic tour story. Give me one good story.
Keep
I
it
know it's a
clean,
million
man.
of 'em.
Yeah, keep it clean.
But give me one story. Nile Rodgers, you worked with Quincy Jones. I mean, give me one story on the road that, PG this morning.
You know,
Yeah.
it
Your students might be listening.
You from the southern, you from the south, man.
well, I'm from the South, and I remember being on the road when we were on the road on holidays, and that was the hardest thing for us then, and I'm sure it's the hardest thing now. So you're not around for people's birthdays, you're not around for Christmas or Thanksgiving or under the
Family
family times. You're
get-togethers.
just not around.
Yeah.
And I can remember one time we were someplace in the South, I can't remember where, and it was a holiday. And it was like Thanksgiving. And we really,
big one.
it was a big one. And we really wanted to eat. So we got in the limo and we started riding around. Where are we going to get something to eat? Because also in the South,
limo?
places are closed, right?
Right.
All of a sudden, we looked out and we saw this sign that they were talking about what they had. And they said they had macaroni and cheese. They didn't even
Macaroni.
spell it macaroni.
You know
they
that's a
spelled
soul
it
food. You was
in a different part of the South.
That's a soul food restaurant.
M-A-C-A-R-O-N-I. They said macaroni and cheese, and we
Soul
said, "This
food.
is it.
That's our spot.
This is our
We gonna
spot.
enjoy
Talk
this.
This is where we're gonna go and eat."
Wow.
Was the
it
food good?
It was really good.
Okay.
It was
It would have
really
been
good.
a shame if that food
That's what they
wasn't
said.
good.
This is macaroni, not macaroni. Macaroni.
Macaroni.
Did you work in the
Macaroni.
South as a restaurant
That's why.
manager?
That's why they ain't spell macaroni right. 'Cause the food ain't good. That's along the
Did you
food.
work
ain't
as
good.
a restaurant manager one time? I don't remember.
No, but
That's
I
how
know.
you spell
But
macaroni.
do you know how to spell macaroni?
Of course I do.
All right,
I'm
spell it.
college educated. We don't have time for you
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
right.
Music from my heart, Alfa
Yes.
Anderson. One more time, where can people find that song and the single?
Well, I'm definitely on City Baby, Amazon.
Yep.
And I really want you to follow me and help this analog girl become a part of the digital world.
Definitely.
I'm in Facebook, former Lady
Yeah, you only
Chic.
got one picture, Alfa.
That's
We
right.
got to upgrade.
I got to, yeah, okay. I got to
you
get
need
more
some help.
pictures.
You got
I
Shirley.
do.
Shirley.
I do.
Shirley don't even have time to get here on time.
So my website is officialalphaanderson.com, and follow me on Twitter at Alpha K Anderson. And I was telling
Instagram, so you gotta get on the gram.
I'm on Instagram, but I only have one post because I haven't figured it out.
Oh, y'all need.
We're
two
going to
drinks.
help you there.
So you
need
got
2 drinks.
you got to help me.
2 scoops.
Be careful who you give your password to, Confucius say, because you have a cesspool.
Your husband be like, "You want that DM again, Alfie?"
Alfa, get off that phone and make me some macaroni. Coroni.
Make me some
Corona.
crony.
Thank you so much for coming
Oh,
in.
my
Yeah, it was
pleasure.
fun.
Yeah, and we learned
We're gonna see
something.
you. This is what it's all about. We try to bring the legends to the non-free lounge
And
because you're legendary, but you ain't done yet.
Okay.
And I was
no,
always want
no.
to say, every time we bring people that from our generation, we always say we always learn something. I always say we never too old. That's like earn to learn
All
something.
right, Green Eggs and Ham. I'm gonna get you a Dr. Seuss book.
Well, she said Coroni.
There you go. Alfa Anderson.
That was an official spot.
I'm gonna take a quick break. We keep this train
Thank you,
moving. The best
guys.
team in
Be
radio.
well.
Come on back.
Yo, can I get it in the morning? Every Saturday I be up, know your name. 950 Lounge on Square.